Today on Passion for Food, we make this amazingly delicious and easy beef and potato gratin. This dish is also sometimes referred to as scalloped potatoes, especially in America and Australia. My goal with this dish was to have it come out tasting like a Cornish pasty, just without the pastry. And I was super happy with the results, both the wonderfully simple, savory flavors and just how quick and easy this is to put together. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hit the ground running and talk about our beef. Now, of course, feel free to use pre-ground, but I thought I'd grind my own chuck roast here today. But buying it or grinding it, you want about 20% fat, so that's an 80-20 ground beef. And I'm actually just using one of these stand mixer meat grinder attachment things. I really love this. It was only like $30, but man, it just does the job. But this reminds me of a terrible joke. Hey, why is ground beef so popular? Well, it's really hard to catch flying cows. The reason I like to do fresh ground here is it hasn't been all packed together and it's kind of a coarser grind, so this will be easier to spread out and it'll give us a great final texture. So now that we have our beef, let's talk potatoes. I like to use big baking potatoes here. They're just super appealing. And we just want to go ahead and chop those into rounds. I can't really give you a magic number for how many potatoes you'll need. I think I wound up using 3 of these freakishly large baking potatoes. And now for our onion. You can slice these however you want, but I really like keeping them around. It doesn't really matter what thickness we choose to cut these, just try and keep them all around the same size. You get it? Around? Alright, I'll stop. Perhaps we can circle back to that joke later. So in our 9x13 baking dish, we can go ahead and start assembling our beef and onion gratin. And because we're using that beautiful 80-20 ground beef, I'm not going to add any additional oil to this at all. And we want about 1/3 of a pound of beef here. I normally do these in about 3 main layers. And next, I'm going to add the onions. And finally, our potatoes. Just arrange those as best you can. It doesn't need to be perfect. Now, this is really important. Before we slap another layer on here, we need to stop and season this. You see, because we're doing something called the eyeballing it method of seasoning. You don't want to wait and just think you're going to season the whole thing all at once. You're going to wind up needing way more seasoning than you think. So I definitely recommend seasoning each layer like this individually. It's much easier to get your seasoning right that way. So we just want to repeat that process until we reach the top of our container. For the 1/4 inch slices I made here, that's going to give me about 3 total layers. And fun fact, the actual word gratin is a French word for a culinary technique in which an ingredient is topped with a brown crust, often breadcrumbs, grated cheese, eggs, or butter. But the word gratin can also apply to a wide variety of other dishes, including these scallop-style potatoes we're making here today. And I'm just going to layer the top with some additional onion. I like that little bit of extra moisture, and we'll get some browning and extra flavor on top from these onions. And don't forget to season thoroughly here with salt and pepper. And finally, we're going to add 1 cup of beef stock. Now, I know most gratins contain either cheese or milk, but like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm trying to simulate the classic savoriness of a Cornish pasty here. So let's go ahead and cover this in some tin foil, and we'll whisk this off to a 425-degree oven where we're going to bake it covered for about 30 minutes, at which point we're just going to pull the tin foil off and allow it to cook for another 30 minutes. Doing it that way just helps you get a little bit of extra browning on the top, but not too much. So after about an hour of cooking, we can take our beef and potato gratin out of the oven. Now you could serve this immediately, but I like to let mine cool off just for about 10 minutes. So now that it's cooled a little, let's go ahead and grab a plate and give these a try. I really love the savory simplicity of this dish, and it succeeded in coming out tasting very much like a Cornish pasty, just without the pastry. So I definitely think this is a recipe worth keeping around. You see, I told you we would circle back to that one. And best of all, this works as a main course or as a show-stealing side dish. So, what foods are you passionate about? Let me know in the comments below and I might feature your idea in a future video. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Passion for Food. If you have, give me a thumbs up below and don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell so you don't miss our future recipes. This has been Graham with Passion for Food.